Hello and good morning, guys, and welcome back to another episode of 5 Builder 1 City. 5 Builders 1 City. So today I want to develop this area that Imperatur prepared for us with these insanely complex looking highways. This must have taken a lot of sweat and effort and pain to make, I can tell. Preferably it wouldn't be so hard, but it is I know from experience this is not very easy stuff to make. So I want to make make a fitting city or a fitting sort of development based on that, and I think it's going to be. If you're very observant, you might notice that's on the other side technically of the river, but I have an idea and I think it's gonna work out. So basically, most of the builds so far have either been loosely European-based, this side of the river, loosely North American-based on this side of the river. I want to make this loosely Chinese-based. I want to make something that maybe... I mean, the first I ever saw this, the kind of very high escarpment, maybe like the very but the very high banks of a river here, and all the infrastructure. It kind of reminds me of Chongqing. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's a very big city in the very far inland of China, and it's built on the confluence of a Yangtze and another major river that I of course don't know the name of, and it also has a very similar looking situation, and I think it's going to look very good with some really tall bridges heading here, and also making some rudimentary sort of suburbs around it. So it will kind of be like yet another city center for this map, but I think it's going to be worth it. So I mean, I've tested this idea or this concept out, but we're gonna have to see if it actually works. If it doesn't work, it's fine. I have some other things that after the build, I have some other things on the map that we might want to tend to. I've noticed, like, despite our best efforts to fix the issues with this train station, for example, it just doesn't want to be fixed. Like, this traffic situation is insane, and it gets worse while the simulation runs. So we might have to do yet another thing to try to fix this without ruining what Moose built, or at least not ruining it entirely. But you know, that's I guess the process in city planning. So I also want to review the tram lines a little bit, because I think with this extension, with the extension of the build up here, I think it's time to actually look into public transport a bit more, like, and have it make sense in a larger concept. Also noticed that we have started building a metro system, so this would be a great area to connect with the metro as well. So there's a lot of different plans here. I don't think the video will actually show everything. I might cut out things. I mean, I will be making probably like a few new interchanges and a lot of roads, and definitely if I go ahead and build the basic suburbs, that's going to be a lot of stuff. So, but I'll try to show the most important parts. Oh, and I also want to unlock the dams, because I want to build dams. So let's start with that. Great. How about we start building? So yeah, I'm recording a few days later. This video took quite a long time to put together, and I faced a lot of issues. As I kind of noted in the text pop-up, I did lose quite a lot of progress because I had disabled autosave for some reason. I don't remember why. It might have been that last time I played, I did not use autosave because of like recording cinematics or something, but I felt a bit dumb. It's fine. The the final build turns out better, I think, anyway, than what I was getting from that. Like, every time you redo stuff, it just gets better. It's frustrating, but it gets better. I was also facing quite a lot of issues with like the city in general. There were a lot of issues with notifications. You can see them sometimes in the background. A lot of pop-ups and stuff like that. I did go around and try to fix as much as possible of that. And I guess we'll talk about that a little bit in the end. I plan like to have a sort of live play showcase of what's built, because I'm not going to show everything in this video, unfortunately, or in the time lapse. It wasn't possible to do that in a good way, so because I don't know what it is, but it takes longer for me. It takes longer for each video. I just get more and more ambitious. It's a bit of a problem. I need to check myself. Anyway, I should talk about what's going on. So this area, Imperatur built the highway network in this area, and I had eyed it up for my last episode actually, but I ended up not building it, and I built a ski resort and suburb instead, or like a ski jump facility. I guess it was winter sports stadium really, but now I finally had an idea or a plan. Like it just came together. I wanted to make something more Chinese inspired or Asian inspired in general, and we have these very nice like landmark buildings. I think one is Korean though, and one of them is Chinese, and they are perfectly round footprints, so they fit. You can make them into. They're kind of made for putting in a roundabout, so that's what I do. But I make them very different. This is pretty much like a traffic circle. It's a roundabout for like that will see a lot of traffic. I think this is the Korean monument, and I don't remember what it's called, but I think it is. I think it is from Seoul. The other one I use is the Xi'an. I think it's the Xi'an Bell Tower or something like that, and I'd imagine that is in the town of Xi'an in China. But that one I make into more of it's like surrounded by a pedestrian roundabout, if you will. So it's more like a part of I don't know, some kind of destination. But anyway, these two roundabouts will be sort of or these monuments, I guess, will be on each end of the main build. But the build itself will be much larger and like take up such a huge area, especially including the suburbs. I kind of foolishly decided I needed/wanted suburbs as backdrop for the build, but in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have needed that. The build would have been fine by itself, but yeah. I do not show most of the suburbs being built, or any of them, to be honest, but we'll look at it in the live play. And here I'm realizing the struggle Imperatur must have gone through for building these roads with the retaining wall and the sort of the key. I don't know what even like basically retaining wall on both sides. Like that's a very, very painful, especially if you want to make the road go smooth. And I also realized I did place this a little bit differently, so I had to make a little bit of a switchback for it to not look very funky. But eventually it turned out nice. I didn't edit a lot of the road network here in general, though. It's just I did replace some small segments where it kind of became too steep otherwise. Eventually, I also go ahead and dam the river, like very, very low dams, very sort of not a huge elevation difference between the sides, between the upstream and downstream side. But while I did that, I kind of accidentally flooded the railway, so I had to raise the railway as well. But Imperatur did a little bit by a few meters or so. Yeah, so I should have said something about that, but like, yeah, the first part of this video is basically me doing the roads, or like the main roads, the arteries, arteries, the main roads going up into this area and connecting and doing stuff. So I really liked the idea of aligning roads to that sort of pedestrian path that goes through the gatehouse of this Korean landmark building. So I tried my best to do that. I couldn't figure out a good way to perfectly align it, but I figured close enough. If I can just eyeball it, it might be close enough. And I really like looking down and seeing the road align through the gatehouse. I think that's nice. And here we go. Here's the other landmark, which I think might be the last landmark that we had available. I don't know if we had any more we could actually place. There might have been one more or so, but we've been pretty good at placing all the landmarks. But I have a hard time like seeing what other context these guys would work in. So I'm happy to use them, even though it's a little bit of a mashup, I suppose. This area is, or this sort of build in general, is inspired of my idea of Chongqing, which I still can't pronounce. I should have looked it up yet again. But it's a town in the far inland of China, or like pretty far in. I don't exactly know. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's in Sichuan Province, but it is. It might actually be, but it is pretty far inland. It's a very, very big city. It's a very important city. It's on the confluence of the Yangtze and another river. And it's like, just look it up. It's really a cool city. But it's built, like the center of the city is built on a very, very narrow, I guess like, or on the banks of this river confluence. But it's a very, very tall river bank. So you basically get the same kind of situation that we had here. And it's built on the slopes, it's built on the, down by the river as well, and there's all sorts of tunnels going through it, like metro tunnels and monorail. They even have an actual monorail system in Chongqing, which is kind of cool. Of course, we don't have monorail in City Skylines 2, but I'll do the metro system instead. So, and also we have a lot of cool bridges. I thought it was a fitting idea to implement here anyway. I've also been told, and also honestly I can see it, and I kind of take a little bit inspiration from like maybe other places like Pittsburgh, not also Europe, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but you have all these bridges going in all directions across the river, which I think is super cool. I've also been told it reminds some people of Bern, Switzerland a little bit. And I can see that too, even. It's a little bit of a smaller city, but these are maybe Chongqing and maybe a little bit to some extent Pittsburgh are the main inspirations for this. And I had fun playing around with the mashup. And also, especially like because you don't really have Chinese assets or anything like that. I have seen some amazing Chinese-inspired builds, though, mainly using the European assets, but also mixing very freely with the American ones and the North American ones, and creating really incredible builds. I should like shout out Adonis, who built some really incredible stuff. And this is I guess I'm a little bit inspired by Adonis in this respect. But I've seen plenty of really cool Chinese builds. There's actually a Chinese city that I don't remember the creator of on the PDX mods website. That's called All China in One City or something like that. China in One City. And it's basically just a lot of different ideas from around China, especially down south, I think. It's like Shenzhen, Macau even, and like, yeah, Pearl River Delta, what I remember. It was an amazing, like, you can download the save game and see so many cool ideas in action. So I would definitely recommend you doing that. I think I was a little bit inspired by that save game as well, so I'll try to remember to link these things in the description so I can properly give the credit where the credit is due. Yeah. And it kind of, these guys kind of inspired me to like sort of think more outside of the box here, even though, you know, it's kind of limiting what kind of options we have with assets. But that doesn't mean our imagination is limited. So it's kind of, we can still create really interesting stuff if we just imagine, if we just use the power of imagination, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm sounding cringy again, but yeah. Here I'm playing around with a using a different bridge for, I guess, the bridge that will connect to the rest of the city, most of the rest of the city anyway. But eventually I go ahead and use the arch bridge again, because I think the arch bridge is just so good, and yeah, it's just so good, and I don't really need more. This bridge will eventually carry trams, so there's going to be like a tram line that goes through just over these bridges. And as I said, there's also going to be metro lines. A metro line, there's going to be a metro and tram like interchange station in the sort of in the middle of this area, and it will be the main public transport hub in this part. There won't be any bus lines, but I don't think it's needed because it's a pretty dense, pretty well connected, like everything is pretty close to the stops, so it feels adequate. But yeah, I mean, realistically, there probably would be a few bus lines here also. I did talk about, I think, using the European buildings more, but we'll talk about that more when I start actually showing the zoning part of this. So that's cool. Completely unrelated, or almost unrelated, I just the other day uploaded my first PDX mods item, I guess. It's a I'll also link that. It's a save game, actually. It's the save game I did for the Canal City tutorial. I'm using a lot of the same tricks in this build, actually, but in different ways. But we'll get to that also. So yeah, I've become a PDX mod uploader for the first time. I honestly thought that I would be like just hanging on the lock. I don't know if that's a thing you say in English, but like be among the first to upload a map or something like that. But certain things got in the way, and I wasn't able to spend as much time. So I still haven't made my first map, which saddens me a little bit. But you know what? I'll get around to it eventually. I'm looking forward to play. I think my first map, whatever it is, it will probably be a map using some of the hacky modded techniques, especially with surfaces. I think something using like a surfaces to make beaches, I think, is kind of necessary right now. So and Rafterman has been making some incredible pictures of some incredible maps, or like making incredible maps already, but the maps to come, especially the Dunedin map, gets me really excited for trying to make maps myself also. So eventually, hopefully this summer, I'll get to that. In any way, there's plenty of other cool maps to play, so I don't know why anybody would be waiting for me to make maps. So oh yeah, the other day I just visited one of the locations I used for making the Glumslöv City Skylines 1 map. Just random info right there. It was kind of funny. Kind of random, but it's pretty near where I live, so it was a short trip away. Very nice weather. Going to the beach, eating some nice food and such. Yeah. Oof. Oh yeah, and here I'm actually doing something that I'm often too lazy for it. I'm often too lazy for using like dual networks. And instead I'm more often like using the avenue, the 2-lane avenue, I guess. But like using individual networks, I think this is something Moose talks a lot about in his episode, the previous episode, can be very powerful, and like you get the ultimate flexibility of doing stuff. This is something also Adonis does in their Chinese very Chinese builds, which inspired me a little bit. But I am often too lazy for it. I need to get less lazy. I need to become I don't know. I need to do better. Do this more anyway. Yeah. So that's cool. Oh, here I'm doing a roundabout for trams that I might have posted about a few days ago or something. I'm also using the bootleg node controllers trick that is basically just sort of repeating the road, just dragging out the road over and over and over again until it sort of smooths out the transition, or like extends the nodes basically. I should be using Move It for this. I will use Move It very, very like soon enough. I will use Move It, but I'm still doing pretty much all of this stuff vanilla, air quotes. So, but yeah, I'm excited how that turned out. To be honest, that was a nice roundabout, a very fun roundabout to do. Like the roads and doing stuff like that in City Skylines 2 is just more fun and like better. So it is the big, I don't know, maybe redeeming factor. Like, I don't know if it's redeeming factor, but it's like one of the most fun parts of the game, I think. And I think they really did a good job with that part. As many have already said, you know, you don't need to hear it from me as well. Yeah, roundabouts like these is like my passion. No, not my passion, but like I really like doing these. And it's really fun to sort of just use the flexibility when connecting segments like that. So you can make them perfectly align and like wiggle them back and forth. It makes me very happy. It's probably a good reason to reignite the Interchange World Tour series, but I haven't made any additions to for quite a while. But yeah, like making interchanges like that, or like and roundabouts and infrastructure is very fun. And here I'm starting like the secondary street network in the main area, which is mostly going to be like smaller streets and alleys. Just getting everything as dense as possible. I'm focusing a lot on trying to really get a lot of zoning grid here. And not just maximizing the area, I'm definitely trying actively to get as much of a surface, as much of the roads to be connected to a build. How do you even say that? The side of a road. Like I don't want any sort of facades. Like, I mean, I want as much facade-facing road as possible. That's what I want to do. It's really annoying when you have lots of large gaps between buildings, and also if you have a sort of just barren wall of a wall-to-wall building facing a road. Like it's just like with no windows or anything. That stuff kind of really annoys me, so I try to avoid that as much as possible. And with clever networking, but especially also using like pedestrian paths and other tricks like that, you can really get a good good effect. I'm also using the trick of dragging out roads, these key wall roads, with a wider network and then downgrading them, because if you downgrade them, they keep the key. You can even switch the direction of the key if you upgrade in the opposite direction, but it's much easier to get the key walls to spawn on a wider network. It's a bit of a life hack. I think I might have talked about it in the Canal City tutorial video as well. So, but yeah, because I want the narrow roads with the keys, but it's almost impossible to drag them out like that by default. Of course, I should also say there are mods that help you do this much easier now. I think it's the extended network. Oof, I don't dare say what it is, but there is a mod that lets you basically do this without any effort. So look, it's on the top front page of PDX mods, so it's going to be there. Extended network options or something along those lines. Sorry, my mod trivia knowledge is really bad in City Skylines 2 so far. It's horrible. Oh yeah, this is nice. I made a small like viewing, as if this place needed more viewing spots. But yeah, like a small viewing platform kind of a thing. I like that. Just a pedestrian road that goes into a sharp turn and then put a roundabout on it and becomes a sort of plaza, elevated plaza. I like that you can use roundabouts for that. We did that in the first episode of in my first episode of the 5 Builder 1 City. I used those roundabouts to create a castle with towers based on a Reddit post I saw. Yeah, so many cool ideas. Like recently, yeah, I guess recently with all the new mods, I mean, I've been starting to see so many cool things in this game. I've been kind of in hibernation for this spring, but it's kind of hard avoiding getting excited now with like all the cool new stuff we're seeing, like especially when I'm talking about like the cool ideas that people are finding to bypass the game's limitations. That's kind of my jam. That's always been my thing, the things I like the most. So I'm very excited to see like more of that. And I think the Reddit, like it's just like the best place, one of the best places for it. Like it's always been a place where people share the craziest and coolest stuff, I think. So shout out to the City Skylines Reddit, I guess. I know a lot of people have preconceived opinions about Reddit in general, but you know what? I think it's fine. It's actually a great place. Oh, controversial opinion. Oh, and here I go ahead, and this is so funny actually with the metro station. I place it down, and then I kind of forget about it until very late, like much later. And I get lucky that I'm able to connect it back up actually, because I place it down and I drag out a track in this direction, and then I just kind of forget about it, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. I started building a metro here. Shouldn't I do something with that? Maybe, I don't know. But I noticed it in time. I'm not too happy how we can't change. I would have loved to have a custom bridge or something more custom looking for that bridge though, but it is what it is. It's what we got right now, so. And that's going to be the transit hub of this area, where you have both the trams and the metro stopping at the same location. I don't think I realized quite how many roads I was creating in this part, but you know what? There's a lot of roads. A lot of building in City Skylines 2 is just roads. Not unfortunately. I mean, maybe it's just because I think it is the funnest part. It's also frustrating. It's kind of both at the same time, because of how I wish there was, specifically like when it comes to the roads, I wish there was a option that smoothed the to avoid roads like following terrain and stuff like that. I want the road from point A to point B in a sort of a continuous, like just like straightest possible slope, everything. But sometimes, especially when you're dragging stuff out on ground level, it's very hard to get that effect. So that's why I solve that by doing a lot of terraforming before placing roads instead. I mean, pretty much everything is possible to do with the roads. Like, it's very, very flexible. It's really powerful. It's just like it feels like with like just a slightest improvement to the tools, it would have become so much more convenient, or so it would have felt so much better doing it, I guess. It would have been easier a little bit as well, but it's fine, you know. I'm sure this is something that, if not already, is fixable by mods. It will be fixable by mods. Yeah. And I've been doing this for quite a while in this video, but you can see me kind of using the pedestrian paths to, in some cases, influence the grid, and in some cases just like fill out empty areas so that it doesn't look so weird and just grassy for no reason. I think that's a very good trick as well if you're playing this game vanilla without
like surfaces and stuff like that. Just use pedestrian paths as if they were surfaces almost. You don't have to cover the whole area. You just have to get them in there and have them interact with the buildings, and in this case the zoning grid, because there's not a lot of buildings yet. Pedestrian paths and trees. I've said it before, you don't really need much more for detailing. I mean, I would prefer much more, of course, but you don't really need that much, a lot more. A huge win for City Skylines 2 is, of course, that the pedestrian paths are smaller, so you can do more stuff. I would have wished maybe more options, like maybe large, like maybe different sizes, but the fact that they are smaller makes them a lot more flexible. They are a little bit wonky when they connect to networks, though. Sometimes that's a little bit of a not win, though. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm trying to keep a little bit of the. In some cases, I'm flattening and smoothing out stuff, but sometimes I'm not like actively keeping it. So it's to sort of keep a little bit of the terrain. Like I think just having a little bit of bumpiness adds charm and realism, for that matter, as well. Of course, it's very easy to get too much of it, though. But if you can get just enough of like the natural unevenness of slope, just keep that. I think it's going to elevate most cities. Even if you're building a city on like perfectly flat, like floodplain or something like that, just keep a little bit of that stuff, and it's going to look better. It's just like extra detail. Like if stuff goes up and down, if stuff wiggles around, like every road doesn't have to be perfectly straight and perfectly aligned to the grid either. Like at some point somebody messed up with the measurement, and it's just too expensive to fix. It's not worth to fix it, so that's just how it is now. And like since a lot of, I mean, I guess like roads and stuff like that would have been based on the location of previous older roads, and those in turn would have been like placed where even older roads and stuff like it goes back. It kind of makes sense that a lot of these things wouldn't be uneven, or wouldn't be that even anyway. Even the most like modern infrastructure has imperfections, and yeah. So if this is something, if you have a feeling that your city looks just a little bit too perfect, I suspect this might be a fix you might be interested in. Like just introducing a bit of uneven slope, introduce some bumps, introduce I don't know, some like misalignment with angles and stuff like that, and it might help. It might also not help, but I don't know. I guess it depends. You shouldn't make a curvy runway for an airport, maybe, but I mean, unless you're doing like the literal circular airport thing, but I don't know. So here I'm creating a road that goes down to basically to the river, to the water line. And my idea is that this area down here is going to be an industrial area. You're going to get, I'm going to like zone an industrial area down by the water line. I don't know exactly what I based this off. I think it might have been a little bit more Pittsburgh than Chongqing, but probably both. Maybe in the story it's like, I don't know, this area was accessed by shipping. Maybe there were like barges coming up here at some point. I can't ruin that by then placing dams, of course, but that's maybe one possible reason for why the industry exists just down by the water. I don't know, there could be so many reasons. And you can see like I do that a lot. I do the terraforming before dragging out the roads. It works remarkably well when you get good at it, but it's frustrating. It takes a while to learn, actually. So I would have preferred maybe like just doing this in one connect, and it just works, and then adjusting like the terrain afterwards instead. But this is the game we have. We're gonna play around it. I'm not gonna whine too much about it, even though I already have. So Oof. Yeah, these retaining walls on the inside are a little bit frustrating because you can see how the shadows are really weird from them. I don't particularly like that. Something I've noticed with tunnel entrances as well. I assume it's some kind of air quotes bug maybe, or something that will eventually get fixed, but I think the shadows on networks and tunnels is very weird. So yes, and finally we go for the zoning. Basically, the zoning part is a lot of medium density residential. That's mainly what I do. Medium density residential European. But I do mix in quite a few different assets. I do mix in the North American assets as well. So, but the main, I think definitely the main type of zoning here is mid-rise European. I don't know, it's something about the slanted roofs that just make it fit a little bit better for this kind of a build, I think. I am also using a lot of row houses, I should say, and I'm mixing the American and the European row houses together. I think they actually work very well when you mix them, so that's something you can try if you want more variety also. And here I'm actually creating my first ever like dam, or like the dam that is supposed to stay, or like a dam with a purpose, I guess, not just for testing it. I noticed you can't actually place it connecting to the railway, or if you create the railway junction, it's gonna break. But it's not gonna be a very efficient dam. It's a very sort of small drop in the river. It's going to create a very small difference in elevation, but I think it's fine. Like I'm going to add one more dam upstream from this also, so it's going to be basically a like a series of smaller dams instead of one large dam. And I think it's a cute thing. It definitely adds detail to the waterline or to the river. So see it more as that. It doesn't really produce a lot of energy. It's basically like a few wind turbines worth of megawatts. So it's not super efficient, you could say. Here I'm going upstream to where I kind of intend the second dam to be, but it will have to wait because I end up actually placing a train station before the dam. And this train station is going to basically be the train station that serves this area. Even though it's a bit awkward, it's on the it's on the river level. It's on the other side of the river also, so I don't know really how you practically would reach it in a good way, but it just felt like a good location. Maybe it's not actually really a very useful railway station. Maybe it's just like a I don't know what like you should make these things useful, of course, but it just looks good. Like I'd imagine maybe this is more of a actual cargo hub or a cargo train station, or like just a rail yard down by the river, than being an actual passenger station. But I'm using the passenger station regardless, and I'm connecting it. There are going to be suburbs on this side of the river, so it will kind of make sense, and there will be paths going down, or like roads going down, so you can access it. This highway you can see is going to do a tunnel underneath the train station, so it is going to connect, and it is going to connect with like a small interchange, I should say. So it is connected. It's just like not super conveniently connected, like the metro and tram hub, I guess. Ultimate would be to connect the tram line somehow to the station, but that would be, since that tram line goes on the arch bridge high above, it would be a very, very it would be a pretty awkward stop, I feel like. Like you'd have to, if we could do elevators, if there was some way to do like elevators, this would have been such a great idea. Like an elevator that goes up the bridge and there's a stop on the bridge. That would have been amazing. There is an elevator like that in Stockholm, Katarina-hissen, that, I mean, it doesn't really connect a train station with a tram, but it's basically an elevator that goes out on top of, there's a path that goes out and there's an elevator. And I think nowadays it's more like of a restaurant or attraction anyway, but yeah, something like that. Elevators, great idea. Add custom elevator would be great. Stairs, escalators, all that stuff. Hong Kong has an amazing outdoor escalator system that I think it's the longest in the world even, that I traveled on once when I went to Hong Kong. It's pretty amazing. Like, there's so many different layers of infrastructure that you could theoretically have in the game, but that unfortunately aren't yet. But who knows? Maybe someday somebody will mod an escalator or elevator system. But yeah, and here I'm creating the tunnel entrance. This highway, I do end up continuing this highway along and connecting it up to the other roads on the other side of the river. I think to parts that Imperial Jedi built. But I don't really show that. I'll show it in the live play. I'll brush over it and like you'll see it all. You'll see it all, but you won't see it all being built. That's basically the mantra for today. And I really like how Imperatur used these pedestrian paths to sort of create walls. So I wanted to make sure that I fixed them whenever I had to delete them. Here we're revisiting the zoning once all the buildings have grown in, because now we can see like which ones fit, which ones don't, and like it's much easier to see how you can create variation. I'm using the trick of the mixed-use buildings on the corners because they kind of create this surface effect on both roads, like on corner. They're just great on corners. They create this surface free vanilla surface effect, I guess. That surface effect is a different thing, but a free surface effect, I should say. But it's just a good trick. You can try it yourself using the mixed use buildings on corners, and you'll see the glory. You'll see the glory of it. Yeah, and you can see whenever I place like too many row houses together, I switch some out for a medium density building. I'm using more of the paths to adjust the grid so it's more like how I would want it or something. It can look a bit tedious, but it's kind of relaxing, to be honest. I don't mind it as much as it looks like I would mind it, but it's weirdly relaxing in a way to just sort of go and tweak the zoning like this. I'm trying to avoid larger buildings also. This is still something Moose talks about getting the smaller buildings to spawn and not quite as big, because I think more smaller buildings look better than few larger ones. At least for this kind of density area. Yeah. Oh, and here I realized this area has like no parks or anything like that. It's still going to be like in the finished state, relatively barren of parks and green spaces. But I felt like, you know what, I want to add like a football field in a very awkward spot, like on the slope. So I went and did that. Yeah, I think it fits perfectly here. I just need to struggle a bit with the road so that I can get a road access to it, because you can't get the road access, unfortunately, through the key walls. So I have to redo the road a little bit. And you see the struggle with the terraforming again. It's real. Eventually it works out though. It's like with all the things, it just eventually it works. And I don't exactly know why or how, because if I knew how, I would be able to do it on the first attempt, I'd imagine. But sometimes we just accept you have to do it 20 times before it works. I do a lot of smoothing of the terrain around these things, because otherwise it's going to create insane cliffs, and insane cliffs are a little bit of a bummer. So yeah, and you can see like I quick travel in future, and now there's suburbs around this thing, which I'm not showing. I'll show it in the live play as I promised. I'm sorry. There's just not enough time to realistically show it in a good way. I went crazy for hours just building these, but I do want to show connecting the metro line a little bit, because this I'm super proud of. I told you before I almost forgot about the metro, and I was lucky enough to have like space left for a metro on the side. I could have easily just forgotten about it and like, oh, there's no space anymore, no metro, I'm sorry. Because I want this to be a ground and an elevated metro line that sort of follows the cliff side. I'd imagine this is also a kind of a Chongqing nod, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't know too much about it. Or I can't sort of point to one exact reference for this, but I know that $2.20 did an amazing like Chongqing inspired city in City Skylines 1 a while back, and that was like hugely inspiring as well. I should have mentioned that. That's probably a huge part of my inspiration here as well. And it really sort of showed like the crazy hill infrastructure, the infrastructure in the hills and the slopes and the cliffs, how it's possible in real life and in the game, which I'm happy to announce. It works in the game. Like it's remarkably works remarkably well even. Yeah. So here the trickiest part will be the bridge over the road, I think. But otherwise, it was a pretty straightforward metro connection, I think. I did go eventually and connect it up to the rest of the city. I think I added one more station in another suburb, but so it is connected to the city's metro system, but it's not isolated. Don't worry. But this is the most visually interesting part of it anyway, where it does the tunnels and the elevated parts and everything. You can see very quickly there I had to actually delete the power line to get it in, which is a little bit annoying and frustrating, but also, I mean, realistic, you know, I guess. Call whatever that number is before you dig. Like, you might just mess up with the power line. Ledningskollen in Sweden, I think. Don't want to dig up any power lines when you're making your metro. You want to electrocute some poor excavator. Oh, that's nice. Terraforming can be used to make the tunnel entrances look a little bit better as well. So I do that. I do miss some points of the terraforming. Some points are still like a little bit rough. But so the final part of this time lapse, at least, you can see pretty much the entire build to its extent. And I'm just spamming the trees. I'm using the tree brush. I don't think I place a single tree individually, like with purpose. I just use the tree brush because at this point I was so lazy. I wish I would have used the mod that lets trees be placed grown up, because I think this is going to look much better once the trees are grown up. Now you can hardly see any difference from this distance, but it is going to look. I think it's a good method, a good enough method. It's going to be fine. It's going to look fine, but we won't see it until like a few years in game or something, unfortunately. I did go around and place a lot more trees on the other parts of the map just so that we have them. They can always be deleted, but because they take so long time to grow, it felt like a good idea to just place them. Oh, I'll see you in the live play. Hello and welcome back to the promised live play, where I show off the stuff that maybe I wasn't able to show so much in the time lapse. But as you can see, basically this build was kind of a large area. I don't think I kind of went overboard with it. I kind of messed up. This area here is basically all new, which constitutes quite a large part of the city, the total city. But most of these suburbs are pretty uninteresting, to be honest. Like I just did roads and mass spawned low density residential with some commercial buildings in here. The same goes here. I don't know if it actually fulfills the purpose of creating a backdrop for the city that I imagined, but it's something anyway. I could show. I did a lot of these like simple like fake cul-de-sac thingies. I did work with that a lot. I think these would work a lot better if you're actually plopping buildings, because you currently can't zone. You can't really zone on these small roads, which is a bit of a bummer, but that could be a trick, something to take away from this. I did do a few new interchanges, like for example, this one here is new. But like it feels like I've done it 10 times before. It's like the standard park loop I always do. I think I might have added roundabouts to this one, but it's not new per se. The train station down here has a sort of interchange thing where you either go up to the train station, or yeah, I guess go underneath it, go in this tunnel. Yeah, there's also this road here that heads up from the train station to the hills, to the suburbs up here, so it's pretty neat. But the highway road itself continues on up here, goes through a tunnel. The train line also does this sort of thing. There's a small off-ramp here. Goes over this bridge, which I didn't show building. It's a little bit sus, but... And there's another interchange. Very typical of me interchange. And this highway goes up quite a cliff, actually, quite a slope, and connects up to this interchange, which I believe is Imperial Jedi's road. I could be wrong, though. I could have mixed it up, but so now there is kind of a ring road going around this way. So it feels like it makes a lot of sense doing it that way. The highway that Imperatur created went down here through this interchange here, and next to the metro station. It continues on, and I did change this interchange because this was a directional interchange that only connected here. I needed something to connect up to this neighborhood as well, so I just changed it for a simple diamond, and it seems to work. And then connected it up to this highway, which already existed, so did have to reconfigure this one as well. What else did I change? I did change a few other things around the map. You see, we still have quite a few issues in, it says like high rent, abandoned buildings. I determined that was in large parts due to lack of services, so I went around and like plopped schools everywhere and hearse cemeteries, especially in this area because it's the density is so high. So I just propped down a bunch of crematorium. It looks kind of bad, but honestly the schools on the road doesn't look terrible though. But just to make sure that this area has enough coverage for now. Of course, that can be sorted out later. I can show here, right? Yeah, so now we're down at like 1,000 capacity with like 2,400 deaths, so we really needed to place a lot of crematoriums. And the same with schools. And to be honest, we're still not at the sort of demand. We could do more elementary schools. I also created a new interchange here near Sardis starting first city. It was basically a directional interchange only connecting into the city, and I made it like a full four-way stack so that you can now eventually build up this area out here much easier. I did say that I connected the metro line as well, so there's this one extra station as well, and it goes into a tunnel and connects to the system at large, which I think it connects under this train station here, yeah. And what else? I did do a little bit of tram line reconfiguring. I realize this is going to be pretty hard to see, but basically the tram line goes out to this suburb here and does a loop at this loop. And it goes through here, and it stops here. And we had a bunch of tram lines that I noticed that unfortunately were... this is very easy apparently in City Skylines 2 because I didn't notice it myself. These stops were on the wrong side, which caused all sorts of headaches. I had to basically just reroute all the tram lines because they were even just trying to fix some of the stops. They completely messed up. So I think they are in the same general... I'm pretty sure they are in the same general direction and the same general stops. The stops are the same. I might have added like maybe one stop somewhere, but they are functional now. They seem to be working. They seem to be transporting a lot more people than the usage is much higher. Some of these lines had like usage 0 or like 6% or something. So they seem to be fixed for now, but it's also kind of a bit frustrating how easy it is for these to break. Like it could be just you're changing a road or something and the stop flips over to the other side and then you have no idea and you basically have to redo the whole line from scratch to be certain it works. And even that is a bit of a stretch, so or it doesn't even always produce those results, I guess. I plopped down a school here and some another football field and some parking lots. Looks neat. I didn't say anything about this signature building here. I think this signature building almost looks like a pagoda. It looks very Chinese inspired, if you ask me anyway, with this roof. So I think this was a great fit into this area. I really wanted to use it in a prominent location, so I'm happy with that. Oh, yeah. I'd imagine these guys, I didn't say anything about that in the time-lapse. They are some kind of a drop-off point, or even like, you know, yeah, I guess like drop-off point. Like you would park like tourist buses here and tourists would walk around and get back to the bus when we're done with their visit and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're not functional, obviously, but they look kind of decent. The view from here is pretty spectacular. I love the 360 views of a river, almost. And this viewing spot here, overlooking the bridge and Diana's downtown, oof, that's a screenshot. That's a screenshot. Ah, yes. That's so good. Yeah, so I am really happy with this build. Yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really should also say that I did go ahead and ruin a lot of what Moose built in this area here. The reason is I panicked about the traffic that was going through, and I just didn't realize. And in the haste of everything, I just switched out most of the junctions here for roundabouts. It seems to work for now. I don't know if it's a permanent fix, but my theory on it is that the highway roads like have this insanely high speed limit, which causes a preference to use them for whatever reason. So this train station was just getting way too much traffic for no apparent reason. I think that the roundabouts probably add some kind of pathfinding penalty that reduces that. That's my best theory right now anyway. In the future, maybe something that changes the speed limit of the highway roads would be really great as a mod, if that doesn't exist already, because it's really nice to be able to use the highway roads for other things than high-speed highways, you know, so... but yeah, I feel bad about it. It's changed now. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I probably shouldn't have, but you know what? It is what it is for now, and I will accept all the consequences. I didn't use this kind of a method for the tram stop somewhere. I think it's something I've used when I created this hill suburb as well, but it's kind of neat. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know if I will be breaking any new ground for my next part. I think I'll be looking to maybe improving the areas that I created instead, or doing something completely different, because they're a little bit basic right now. Could definitely do more stuff with this, and I'm looking forward to see the trees grow up and how it will look when it's a bit more, I guess, like it fits into the nature a bit better, kind of like how this area has been allowed to, you know, like the trees have grown up here. It sort of adds to the skyline of it. Maybe not so much the skyline here, but you know what I mean. Anyway, that was all. Let me know, once again, let me know if your opinions, what you think about this. Was it dumb? Was it fun? If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Follow the other creators in the build and follow along to see. I mean, look at the playlist as well to see the previous videos in and all the other builds that have already gone into the city. So, yes, I will see you next time. Bye, guys.